Okay. I'd actually like to start by acknowledging our traditional custodians across WA's wine regions and the Bibbulmun Noongar Budja. And I'd actually also like to acknowledge those across in Tasmania, where Daniela is joining us from, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and communities, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Um, Today, we will be presenting to you the Carbonhalo and Wines of Western Australia's emissions reduction program. It's an information session about what the program offers, the costs, how you can go about registering to it, through it, and also Daniela will take us for a drive around or a look around the actual program and how to use it. But I'd like to start with introducing Daniela Ruiz Gomez. She is Tourism Sustainability Manager for Carbonhalo, where she leads the Tourism Emissions Reduction Program in partnership with the Australian Tourism Industry Council. She specialises in helping businesses simplify carbon compliance through practical tools to measure, report, and reduce emissions, taking what can feel overwhelming and making it manageable. Originally from Patagonia, Chile, Daniela holds a master's degree in International Sustainable Tourism Management from Monash University and is certified climate reality leader. And before joining Carbonhalo, she worked with Tourism Australia and the Department of State Growth, where she represented Tasmania in developing Australia's first national sustainability framework for the visitor economy. And throughout Daniela's career, she's worn lots of different hats across marketing, industry development, customer service. So she brings a real world understanding of the challenges that many businesses face. And she's also had a very close association with Wine Tasmania and understands what we're doing in the wine industry in terms of the impacts throughout our supply chain and how that enables and also complicates our reporting across carbon emissions. Daniela is passionate about making emissions reduction accessible and practical, helping businesses turn climate action into clear, achievable plans that can be confidently communicated to customers and stakeholders. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Danny. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. That was very sweet of you to put all that together. So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here presenting this program for all of you. It's been a pleasure to work with Ellie and the team at Wines of Western Australia to put this together in a way that it makes sense for the industry. Look, I'm not sure how many people we have in the room. There's about 10 or 12, but I'm going to go through the presentation. If there is any questions that you may have that are like very, very important, I'm not offended if you need to like put your hand up and interrupt. That is okay. Or you can wait until the end for your questions. We have an allocated time as well. So what we're gonna cover today, I knew this was gonna happen. Is that working? There we go. So what we're gonna cover today, a little bit of the structure is why we're doing this program and how it aligns to the broader strategy of Western Australia wine industry, some of the challenges and the implications that associations and businesses kind of face when it looks at emissions reduction and of course the mandatory climate reporting space. We're going to talk about what we're going to do and what we offer, some of the key features and the process of our program. As Ellie also mentioned, we will be looking at live kind of demonstration and what the tool looks like for all of you, and then the next steps around what's going to happen after we finish this webinar, and then at the end, any questions. So from a strategic plan, there are key set priorities for Wineries WA. Here are kind of like the highlights as well. It's important to kind of recognize that what we're doing with this program is not just about WA, but there is a bigger picture to consider, which is the work that Wine Australia is doing and the Australian Grape and Wine. So it's something that it's kind of supported. This program supported all of that from the ground up. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. The data collection is really important. And this is why we wanted it to highlight in the context of the wine industry, but also the broader picture. So some of the challenges that we've seen for associations and businesses in general is the ones highlighted on the left, and they're basically six. One, it's help. There is a lack of fit for purpose expert service provided and trusted advisors. So businesses really struggle to get the right support when it comes to emissions reporting. There's also the lack of knowledge around what it means to measure your emissions, the actions that you could take, also like who to trust in terms of the knowledge. And that's been a consistent thing that we've heard from businesses is that they feel like they need to be an expert in this topic in order to engage. There's also the risk around businesses remaining competitive around this space, knowing that if businesses are exporting their wines to Europe, you want to make sure that what you're doing it's in line with what others also are doing, basically. And Europe, in this case, it's highlighting the importance of sustainability and emissions reporting. So there's a component of that as well. There's also the data that there is very difficult, I guess, to get your data and organize it in a way that makes sense. This is not just for the business, but also from an industry perspective, is how do we know what are the emissions of our entire industry? How can we support the businesses that are going through this process? So there's like a twofold reasoning of these challenges. It's not just about the business, but it's also how can the industry association, in the case of Wineries WA, support in this transition and in this collection of the data. Reporting. So basically, how can the businesses report in a compliance way, ensuring that what they're collecting and the data and the emissions that they have are actually accurate? And the same goes for an industry association. How can they ensure that the members are using a provider that has the relevant emissions factors and things like that? There's also the time. So you all running your business, we're all very busy, and adding this extra layer of commitment, which is doing your emissions or preparing for mandatory climate reporting, it's a whole new thing. So how do we make it easier where your time is used in the areas that you're passionate about, which is wineries and not necessarily emissions reporting? That's why we got into business, not necessarily like you got into business. So it's important to ensure that your time is used in a way that makes sense to you, basically. So if these challenges are resonating with you and with your business, basically this is where we're trying to support the wine industry, is to provide a system that helps you navigate all of these challenges all at once. So the bigger thing that I wanted to kind of make sure that in this webinar we make it clear, it's about mandatory climate reporting and the context of that in this program. So most wineries, as far as I understand, they're not fitting into the new mandatory climate reporting requirements. However, most businesses would like to stay competitive, compliant, and be ready for when bigger companies might ask for the data on emissions reporting. Now, I am hoping that the word mandatory climate reporting has come up at some point in some conversations, but if it hasn't come up, I'm going to explain them now. So mandatory climate reporting, it's the new legislation that came out from the 1st of January 2025, which is asking businesses to report on sustainability credentials. What does that mean? Is that there's three streams of what you need to be reporting. One element is your emissions, and the other element is your disclosures. There's more than 100 disclosures that a business will have to report on. This goes from governance, situation, strategic analysis, situation, case scenarios, climate risk, etc. So there is more than just emissions. In order for you to be compliance or be part of the mandatory climate reporting remix, you need to be part of a group. Okay, those groups are on the screen. So group one are the businesses, very, very large businesses that are looking at 500 million revenue, 1 billion assets, or 500 employees. So those are like big, big companies. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is that you don't have to feed the three of them, just two out of those three. Same with the large companies, same with the medium companies. So if your business right now is sitting into group 2 or group 3, please let me know. And that's our email. Please contact us, because most likely the program that I'm going to be talking about it today now might not fit what you're looking for. And that's something really important to understand because the program that we put together was for those businesses that are unlegislated. So meaning they don't have to do mandatory reporting, but they do want to stay competitive. They want to know and understand their emissions to find cost savings and again to stay competitive. So to repeat that message again, if you are sitting in those group 2 or 3 and you are fitting into 2 out of those 3 dot points, please reach out to us so we can talk to you about what are the programs that we have available to take you through those 2 and 3 streams that you need to be reporting for mandatory climate reporting. So moving on, in the unlegislated section here, where other businesses, these are the ones that are not subject to emissions reporting laws. But again, you do want to stay compliant. You still want to understand where your emissions are coming from, and you still want to have some kind of reporting that tells you what your emissions and what can you do to reduce your emissions. So the program that we put together is called the Business Climate Action Program Plus. That's the one highlighted in green at the bottom. And it's basically preparing you to have a very or a robust understanding of your emissions. It's a very simple platform where you just upload your information and then it gets you a report immediately within 15 minutes. Your 15 pages report with your emissions and the kind of like the what you need to focus on. The ones that you'll see as BCAP Advanced and BCAP Compliance, those are the ones that are that are more aligned to the mandatory climate reporting. So again, if your business fits into the groups that I showed before, please let me know and we'll have a separate conversation around that. But if your business fits in the unlegislated group, then this is going to be a very good program for all of you. So next one. So how we've done this is that we've basically simplified the process of emissions reporting. And basically with the program, you'll get, as I mentioned before, an 8 to 10 page emissions report. You'll get a dashboard where you can tell your story in terms of what your emissions are, but more importantly, what are the actions that you're doing to reduce emissions. You get these through a QR code and a hyperlink that you can include in your website to communicate this to any stakeholder that you want to. There is also data validation. That means that as you answer the questions in the form, it's going to ask you what is the type of evidence that you have. So therefore, you'll know that if at the end of it, it says that you have a score of, let's say, 40, then it means that there is a certain elements and areas that you're going to have to put a little bit more effort in the evidence that you provide to validate your emissions, validate your data, sorry. We also have more than 60 actions in the platform that businesses can do and take to reduce emissions. Now, we work with the wine industry to include those that are in the Wine Australia Emissions Reduction Roadmap. All of those actions are already in the platform. So if you are actively working in this space of emissions and you're already doing some of those actions, it will be really beneficial for you to include them in your dashboard, so that when you can actually communicate and basically tell the story that you are aligned into that bigger picture. Some of the other features that we have with the tool is that you have, okay, I was about to say 24/7 help. No, you don't have 24/7 help. You have 8 hours off a day. So within business hours, I'm available and to support any of you. There is a one-on-one support call that you can have access to our calendars for 30 minutes. That is all for free. To ask any questions, any tricky kind of you're stuck or you're not sure what to do or where to start, it's really handy. And our calendars are up to date, so you can look at that meeting and all of that is part of the platform. And then there's also, of course, interactional videos. There's reminders and messages that the platform will send you to keep you on track. And then there's this little chat box that if you get stuck and you're in the platform, but you don't want to actually have a conversation, you can just quickly chat and say, hey, I'm stuck here. Can you help me? We're in the platform all day, again, business hours. And we will answer you very quickly to solve that question that you may have. From like the typical member experience will be that you will put your code in a website. It will take you about 1 hour or so to complete the form. Now, before the form, we do offer a workbook support for gathering the data. And that workbook comes really handy if you have a bit of a complex business and you need to kind of collect data from different places. That's just like a nice Word document that you can just type away all the data that you need, and it follows the same order as the form. You put all together, copy paste, and then you get the form. As I mentioned before, within 15 minutes or less, you get your emissions report, like it looks in the screen. And that report will include a bit of an analysis of what your emissions are, but at the end, a couple of actions that you can do to reduce emissions, or the areas in which you should focus on to reduce your emissions. And as I mentioned before as well, you have like some actions in place to put together this climate action plan. From an association perspective, the importance of this program is that the data that it's collected gets into this aggregated group. Oh my God, that's a really hard word. I hope that you understand what I said. Uh, so this aggregated group of data that then the industry association could, it makes it easier for them to understand the emissions of the industry, the actions that you're taking to reduce emissions, and effectively after that, being able to support you what you needed. And influence decision making, council or state legislation, or even just grant applications. Having that data, it's significant for an industry association to support you further. And we have cases like that in Tasmania where the tourism industry entered a program where it was clear that the industry was needing some support on EV chargers and EV vehicles. And with that data, with real data, they were able to go to government and say, hey, is there any opportunity for grant to transition for renewable energy? And that came because they had real data to support that. So it's also a very handy tool in that sense. We will have it segmented by region, again, to support the industry to understand how the regions are tracking when it comes to emissions. And of course, Ellie will have the support of myself with any extra webinars or info sessions that we need to do through the next 2 years to support the industry in this space. We're working with different associations across Australia. As Ellie was mentioning before, we're working with ATEC, the carbon industry. We have a partnership with the Victoria Chambers of Commerce and a couple more, as you can see on the screen. So I'm going to stop now to actually give you a little bit of a tour of the platform. Is there any questions that I can answer now that might have come up on the chat or something like that while I get my screen sorted?
Danny, I'm monitoring the chat and there's no questions there, but if anyone else has a question while she's doing that, please, yeah, ask away.
Can you still see my screen or did I just broke it? Okay, you can see the website?
Yeah, it's good.
Right. Perfect. So as you go through the registration process and get into the tool and log in, etc., this is the homepage that you'll see. It's divided into 3 stages. First one is about measuring, your second one is about reduce, and the third one is about avoiding. It will all make sense once I go through the process, okay? Please don't be scared yet. So once you could click on core stages, click measure. This is basically each of the steps that you should take. The first one, it's I think less than a minute video that tells you what to do and how to do it. There's an FAQs here and a C sample report. So I'm gonna just quickly show you how that looks like. So you will have this one with your own branding to ensure that it's up to date. So you'll have your own kind of logo, etc. Give you an overview of your emissions, so what year you are reporting on, the boundaries of your emissions, your fuel, and just a little bit of an analysis on each of those. And at the end, it will come with key recommendations as to where the areas that you should focus on based on the emissions that you have presented in the form. So this is the data workbook that I was telling you about. So again, if you're kind of looking to gather the data first before you jump into the form, it's pretty handy. As I mentioned, it follows the same process as the form. It's just easy because you can just go and edit them right away, collect the data, make notes around where you got the data from, and then of course the data source and the data validation right there. So once you have that information, you go here and you just input the data. And this is the form. I am not going to complete the form because that will take me to make up data, which I don't want to. But basically, it will cover, it's all based on the GHG protocol. It doesn't cover the 15 categories because most of the SMEs space don't have franchise or investments or like things that are just not appropriate for the medium market or the small medium market. So, but it does cover the 9 and 10 key components and categories of the GCG. That includes waste, supply chain, purchase goods and services, and a bunch of other ones. So you will go through the same. And to give you an idea, we're going to go through the workbook so you can see the type of question it's going to ask you. So employees, so it's going to ask you the details of your employees, days per week that they work, how many do you have, business locations. So if you have more than 1 or 2 wineries, it will ask you for the locations of those, business power use, the utilities, your waste, and the details of that. Stationary equipment. So of course, if you're using any diesel or petrol, gas, etc., your vehicle and mobile equipment. So again, the data around the expenditure or the liters of consumption. Purchase goods and services. So we already provide here all the categories. So you can go and find the final component of, let's say, how much money you spent, excuse me, on marketing or in professional services, wholesale trade, etc. So you just put the number in there and then you just copy and paste that number into the form. Deliveries, so the inbound deliveries and the outbound deliveries, packaging, employee commuting, business travel, and then it has an example around where to get the electricity data as an example. Once you complete that, as I mentioned, 15 minutes or less, you'll get your report. And then you can just kind of have a look at it. It's going to be right here, view your report. You can do this as many times as you want. As you can see here, we've done it multiple times in our demo account. So it is recommended that you do your emissions once a year, similar to what you would do with your taxes. So that's the same thing. You would have to come back every year to do your emissions, Ellie.
Danny, can I ask a question about this? Because I was doing some stuff for Wines of Western Australia in our membership area of this. Can I go back in and update that information because I didn't have like the real numbers next to me and I was kind of guesstimating some of it?
Yeah.
Can you go back in multiple times and update?
So you can before you submit, yes, you can save these as many times. Well, okay, let me just give you a it's just gonna be too hard. But before you press submit, there's a save button. So you can
Yeah,
save it as many times
yeah,
and come back to change the data.
yeah.
Once you submit it, you don't have access to go and amend what you already submitted. However,
Okay,
you can submit another report as many times as you want.
okay.
So there's a lot of businesses that they want to know, they want to track. So they will start with like financial year 23, 24, and 25. So then that way they have a tracking system of how their emissions are going. And why
Wait,
they would do that? Because in the dashboard, it will show you a trend.
yeah.
It will give you an understanding of where your emissions are at. So
But if you want to do that by half yearly, you can also do that.
yeah, you can do it by half year. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Look, I have had maybe 1 or 2 businesses that they've done it like even monthly. I don't see the point of doing that, if I'm honest. Emissions are broadly calculated yearly, and that's something that you do back. Okay.
Hmm.
Now there might be a change. There is a reason why you want to do it monthly or quarterly if you're trying to understand whether you have any leakages on energy or anything like that, then I would understand that you might want to do that. And that's a separate conversation that we can have and how we can support you with that. But the platform is to do it yearly, like your taxes.
Sure.
Yeah. So then after you do that, it's when I guess my favorite part of the platform kind of comes all together. I am all about measuring, but there is no point of measuring if you don't have any actions in place to actually start reducing. That's like the most important part to me when it comes to emissions. So this is where when you click on stage 2, you'll get all the new actions here. So this is the little kind of little categories that we have. for you to kind of explore and decide which ones. I haven't even come across a business that it's not doing anything about reducing emissions. Most businesses are doing something. They just probably didn't know that was actually reducing emissions. So keep in mind that that's the case. So you can go to the wine industry section and look at all the different actions that the roadmap for Wine Australia has put together. Each of the actions here are also mapped to the Sustainable Development Goals. So again, it's telling a bigger story. All the actions are also including some estimated savings and some estimated emissions impact. You can type away whatever action you want to do based on that, and then say when do you want to complete that action or whether it's completed or not. So let's say I'm going to say no comments, but I would like to do this action by, let's say, 2028. So once you put that in there, you save it, and then it goes into your dashboard. You can put as many actions as you want. You can also create your own actions. So if you are doing something and you want to make sure that it's being highlighted, you can upload that into the tool. That's not a problem. And as I mentioned, you can do as many as you want, but I recommend between 20 and 30 actions is plenty. You don't need more than that, to be honest. The tool allows you to then also almost use it as a project management tool. So it will start tracking the ones that are completed and there were no comments, or by the due date, or by emissions area as well. So again, another way of you understanding where your emissions are sitting. Once you do that, the last action, this one should take you less than a minute, which is your location and your transition to renewable energy. So you'll have to pick your location, let's say WA. I'm gonna make this up, but I'm gonna say Perth. I don't know if I don't think there's any wineries in Perth, but I'm just gonna go with that for now. Ellie, you have a question. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, just a question that came up through the chat. It's if this is aligned with sort of or works with the Australian Tourism Commission, can the information and reporting that comes out of this assist with tourism quality accreditation?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It could be. We can talk about. Yeah, definitely. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
You can basically be part of the two groups. It's how it would end up being. Yeah. Okay, so in the transition to renewable energy, this is questions mostly like yes and no, almost. So it will ask you about renewable energy, whether you have installed anything, you say yes or no. Let's say if you have solar panel, you just have to tell us what's the percentage of renewable energy. Let's say 60, okay, for 50. You can leave those in blank, and then it says here, do you use any renewable energy plan from any of these providers? I am will say 85% sure that none of these ones are in WA. Therefore, you will leave that empty and just commit to transition to renewable energy. And so that commitment could be by 2030, and it could be in any shape or form that you think it's achievable. Most of the wineries and tourism businesses that I've been talking to, they're looking at installing renewable equipment in the shape of solar panels. So you click on that, then complete location and return to renewable energy, and then save changes, and all of that will be uploaded into your dashboard, which I'm going to show you right now what that looks like. It looks like this. Ta-da! So it looks like this and basically tells your full story. It kind of shows you where your emissions are at. In the example that I have, it says that it's increasing. But again, the intention is depending on the business either to go the same or going down, the actions that you would like to do to reduce emissions, and then the detailed report. If you were to offset, that would also appear here. There's detailed reporting here. Looks like this, so people can actually see it in different ways. There is an interaction button that you can kind of go and click on it and like it if you were someone that was looking at it. And that is basically it. It comes with your badges and your unique link. So that's the unique link that you can then include in your website as part of your badge. So that's the badge that you will get once you complete the program. You can download that and include that on your plan, on your website or on your signature, anywhere you would like it to be communicated. You can use this, and that's it. This is where the help and training sits. So you can this is what we were talking about, having support along the way. the one-on-one support to my calendar, and you can kind of book 30 minutes to have a chat about what you would like to do and what are the things that you're concerned about, and then send a message as well, which is similar to a chat box like any other tool would have, and we will answer you the questions on the spot. That is the program. I hope as it is as easy as I sell it to be, because I think it is pretty quite easy. But of course, the experience of different people might be different, and I'm happy to help and support you along the way. That's the whole point of this program. I'm gonna go back to the presentation now because I am not done yet. So basically what's going to happen next is that after this session, if you're happy to register, that's the QR code to register to the program. That's the link as well. I think Ellie will send this out anyway, but that's access to the QR code gets you to that homepage. There's a small fee to Wineries WA. Once you do that payment, you have a confirmation email that will give you access to the link that you need to use to register to the program with Carbonhalo, and the your group coding, your code that you need to access the tool to sign up. That's it. Any questions?
Danny, I've got a question only because I sort of did this recently, and kind of gained a lot out of it. And I guess as an experience for those who are listening, downloading the template is quite handy in seeing the information that you need to gather first
Yes.
together. And a lot of it you may have or have somewhere that you can sort of, like group really quite quickly. Other areas that I found sort of a little bit more, maybe taking a little bit more work, is just around staff, and that are you using an average? So if you've got a combination of, full-time and part-time and that sort of stuff, Danny, what's the best way of going around calculating that as a
Yeah.
representative of your employees?
Yeah, to be as accurate as possible. So we normally use a 5% uplift to ensure that your emissions are as accurate as possible, right? So for employees, I would say use your full-time employees. And if you have a couple of part-time, use that as another full-time, basically. So that way it gives you the full scope of your employee data.
Yeah.
There is another option of going into the detail and putting each of one of them, but then it just becomes a bit too complicated. So average it's totally fine for this level.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
And that's the
I'm
same with, oh, sorry, Pippa, you go.
yeah, just I'm picking up on that. Well, could you use, because obviously if you're using casuals and seasonals, so if we looked at our average across the year, like what a
Yeah,
normal, based on, previous employment records.
totally. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Does that help you, Kiara, with your question?
The other thing to consider as well,
Yes.
something to consider as well, overall, it's don't let perfection get away with good. Okay. This is not about being perfect. It's about a progressive approach to this. So if your first year feels a little bit rough and weird and the data is not great, that's okay. It's your first year. The second year, you're going to get better. And the third year, you're going to get better. And you're going to have better mechanisms to collect your data. So please, and this is something that I beg every webinar that I do, I beg you all not to go for perfection, because that's just going to like make you mad, and you're gonna want to throw this away and not start ever again. So if you're only looking for good averages, good kind of processes in place, and good enough data, then that's perfectly fine. Especially, for example, if you're looking at previous years and you only have the data, let's say, of 6 months, well, use the 6 months, average it out for the year, and then you're gonna get better with the data that you have. But don't let perfection get away with good. It's my main message there.
And what about with your suppliers and getting information out of your suppliers? Because that's kind of where our packaging sits, isn't it? With the scope 3 sort of information. Can you talk a little bit about that, Danny?
Okay, so supply chain is hard. Okay, and there's unfortunately there is nothing I can do to solve that problem. Okay, now there is ways for you to get better at collecting that data. In the first year, my advice is that you get that workbook and you focus only on those items that we have given you, especially because in the level that you are, which is this BCAP Plus program, you don't need to have the perfect data on your packaging or anything like that. Now, on your second year and the third year, if this becomes a priority, as with Ellie, we've been talking about, is whether that's an area that we do need to focus on, then we will find mechanisms in the tool to support you with that. But in this first year, we're trying to get scope 1 and scope 2 really well sorted. Scope 3, the areas in which are easy to gather. And then on the second and third year, we can look at mechanisms that we can put in our platform to support you with specifically around packaging and bottles. Because I know that that's also something that has come up multiple times with One Tasmania. And that's a process that we will definitely in constant conversation on how we can improve that in the tool. If you were to jump to, let me just show you, 2 seconds. If that is something that you already have identified and that's something that you really want to work through, that's the level BCAP that provides you with a carbon accounting support expert that does the supply chain mapping, and that's a whole different beast. So that's not included in the entry level BCAP Plus. But if that's something that is important to you, we can definitely have a separate chat about how do we make that work for you.
Can BCAP Plus, though, Danny, capture, say, like a business that has glass, and glass is a really sort of significant part of our business, and they are transitioning to lightweight glass? Will it allow you to capture that bottle weight transition?
It will capture in the packaging. It will ask you how much you spend on, let me just see if it's going to be here or not. Yeah, so it has plastic, timber, paper, and cardboard. I'll come back to that one because I'm not sure if it's going to cover in the packaging or in the supply chain.
Yeah.
So let's park that one and we can send an email with that one specifically.
Sure.
Because I don't want to read this whole thing again. So let's park that one. Any other questions?
The process for
Sorry,
getting.
Sorry, you were muted before, so I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Sorry. Yeah, I dialed in a little bit late, so this may have been covered already. I was just wondering what the process is for getting certified under the Sustainable Australian Wineries.
Hi, Curtis. Yeah, this is not directly linked with Sustainable Wine Growing Australia. That's a different certification program. This program is designed to make accessible carbon emissions reporting across a whole spectrum of sort of measurements, and it does align very closely with Sustainable Wine Growing Australia, but it isn't the same program. So if you do want more information about that, then please reach out to me via email and I can talk more about that with you, Travis, at a different time.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, if you're looking to pick up essentially the supply chain style reporting, it is then having to move to that BCAP Advanced program. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you want that accurate representation of each of the items, yes, that will be the BCAP Advanced program. I can send you some details on what that looks like. The pricing of that, it's significantly low than what you will see in the market at the moment. So,
yeah, because if you are supplying any of the particularly larger companies, wine companies anyway in Australia, that supply chain element is huge, or as you sort of said, even into the EU. So I know at this stage I've been rolling through with another. Well, I should say, if you're supplying Treasury, for example, you're going to have to go through a company called EcoVadis, who kind of track, who want all of this information from yourself plus your own supply chain.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought I'd have a look at this to see if that may assist me, because definitely the first attempt at running through that was particularly painful.
I bet. Look, there's two things to your question, Stuart, which is something that I forgot to mention, and thank you so much for reminding me. The first thing is, when it comes to mandatory climate reporting, as I mentioned, most of these unlegislated businesses don't have to report to ASIC. However, because most likely some of these businesses are providing services and products to these groups 1, 2, and 3, it means that in the second year that these groups are reporting, they're going to come and ask you for that data. A perfect example in the winery industry is that if you're providing your product to Dan Murphy's, Dan Murphy's is most likely to be sitting into the group 1 and 2. And so if you're providing your product to Dan Murphy's on their second years, and in this case, 26 or 27, they're going to come to you and say, hey, it's time for you to tell me what are your emissions for the products that you provided me with. And that's when you're going to be providing them with your report. The BCAP Plus report that we're talking will be sufficient for that reporting. Okay? That will be sufficient for you to provide to Dan Murphy's and make, these are my emissions. That will be okay. When it comes to your second question around the supply chain being a pain, yes, it will be a pain no matter which program you're looking at, okay? In the BCAP Plus, however, it's you alone, basically, uploading the data into this form, right? So you're gonna have to go and collect the data, put it into the workbook, and then put it into the form. In the BCAP Advance, the big difference is that you're not alone doing it. You have a carbon accountant doing it for you. The only thing that you need to do is drag and drop your invoices, put it into our folder, and then you walk away. And then we sort out the entire process for you, clean up the data, ensure that the supply chain is working. We will understand your supply chain in more detail, and then you have a report that is like 30 pages. So if you're interested in that, we can again have a separate conversation on what that process looks like. You can still be part of this program. That's okay. It's just that it will not be free. That's the only caveat to that. But the pricing is very affordable, I should say.
Yeah, no problem. I think really for what I'm looking at is a couple of stage or maybe two different things. So the BCAP Plus probably would be the first step, and then there'll be other ways to deal with what I guess I'm talking about having to deal with.
Yeah, totally. Anything else that I can cover?
That's it from me anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone has further questions that you haven't got now, but you think of once you get offline, Daniela is available through the help desk at Carbonhalo. And so you can certainly reach out to her at help@carbonhalo.com, or you can, contact me and I can connect you as well with Daniela, but it's probably easier just to go via that email. But I'd really like to encourage you to just get on board and have a go. I've done that with Wines of West Australia, and I'll be doing that with my other hat, Lakuki Wines, at some point, and just seeing how the program works and the information that it can give back to me. But it is, from what I've seen so far, very simple, and it does encourage you to collect your information and have it contained all in sort of one space. So it helps you start organizing yourself and putting in place those processes if you don't have them already, to help with that sort of step. And I guess, Daniela, did you talk much about how you can link this with your website and share your progress and your space and sort of the advantages of being able to do that?
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit around you getting your badges and your unique link, and that could be like you get it into your own platform. They share my plan, you get your unique link, and then you can link that in anywhere on your website. The kind of recommendation that we're giving is that you download your badge, and the badge is the one that you put on your website, and then you hyperlink that because that has the branding, it has the type of program that you're in, so it's verified. The other levels will say if there's another level lower than this is estimated, so it just kind of takes you to a journey. And then there's this QR code as well. Again, if you take a screenshot of that and take a photo of that, it will be our plan, basically, the demo plan. So, yeah.
Yes. So I guess just for those that are attending today, this is quite useful if you've got, like an iPad that you have at your cellar door or some sort of thing like that, that people can, progress forward and see what your actions are and what your plans are. And you're also in joining and becoming a part of the Wines of WA emissions reduction program, become part of a community. And we will, I guess everyone's data goes into that, and we will be able to, I guess, see in an unidentified way how Western Australia is progressing with regards to our emissions reduction sort of progress. And you can also see over the fence as well into other industries, and what they're doing, and get ideas around things that you can implement. So I think it's got great I guess, insights in that way in terms of, sharing of information across those boundaries.
Cool. Well, thank you so much then again for everybody for tuning in and listening to my voice for the last 50 minutes. I really appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions about any of the programs or the support that we can give you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Ellie. And I'm looking very much forward to working with all of you in the next 2 years or so.
Yep. And thank you very much, Daniela, for your time today. It's been great to sort of be able to launch this program with everyone. And I will send out an email to all of those who registered with the appropriate links in it so that you can, start your journey with Carbonhalo. And it is a program that normally would cost between $1,000 to $2,000 each year as a business. And you have access to that for the next 2 years at just $100. So I highly encourage you to have a go and explore it and see how it feels. And good luck on your emissions reduction journey. See you later, everyone, if there's no more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.